Well, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 14th of December, and I've got a couple of stories that I picked up here which I thought were kind of interesting. The first one is out of China again, and this is data mining from your mind directly. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable technology, and who knows where this might lead. The second story is about the Democrats in the United States of America, and I'm going to show you a little clip and a piece from Hillary Clinton recently, who has basically said that if you don't like the Democrats and you don't want to vote for the Democrats, then go elsewhere. And the interesting thing about this is that who she's referring to is a more, shall we say, radicalized Democratic Party members. Okay, this is the Organic Prepper. China is data mining directly from the brains of workers. China is deploying emotional surveillance technology that mines data from the minds of its citizens. Essentially, they're data mining by reading their brains. The lightweight sensory helmets have been rolled out on an industrial scale. The mind data mining and emotional surveillance programs are eerily similar to trends in the United States to monitor and probe mental health of its citizens through facial recognition. This past spring, Facebook landed in hot water over a data leak which felt like a majority privacy violation to millions of users. But China was taking the data mining to the next level. Around the same time, however, China quietly reported that its government is openly phishing data from the workers' minds, making a Facebook leak pale in comparison. South Morning China Post describes a typical production line at Hangzhou Zhonghen Electric and reports that workers wear caps to monitor their brainwaves, data that management then uses to adjust the pace of production and redesign workflows according to the company. The company said it could increase the overall efficiency of its workers by manipulating the frequency and length of break times to reduce mental stress. Hangzhou Zhonghen Electric is just one example of the large-scale application of the brain surveillance devices to monitor people's emotions and other mental activities in the workplace, according to scientists and companies involved in the government-backed projects. So there you go. You have the government with probably one of the most sophisticated facial recognition systems in the world. Can now, it looks like this could be sewn into the hatband of any headwear whatsoever, possibly even in the collar of a jacket. Who knows if they can pick up brain waves from the back of the neck. But this is absolutely terrifying. Of course, it's funded by the government. NeuroCap is a central government-funded brain surveillance project at Ningbo University, where a lot of the research takes place. It's been implemented in more than a dozen factories and businesses, including train drivers working on the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed rail line using the technology from Dia Company in Shanghai. The built-in sensors in the brim of the hats can sound an alarm if the rail driver starts to fall asleep. The application of this emotional surveillance extends to hospitals and in the military, which no one will comment on. Instead of using it on hospital employees, however, it is used to monitor patients in case of a violent outburst. Xin Zhe, Associate Professor of Brain Science and Cognitive Psychology at Ningbo University's Business School, explains. When the system issues a warning, the manager asks the worker to take a day off or move to a less critical post. Some jobs require high concentration and there is no room for a mistake. Of course, she notes the initial fear and suspicion of employees, but that's after a while. They got used to the device. It looked and felt just like a safety helmet. They wore it all day at work. They thought we could read their minds. This caused some discomfort and resistance in the beginning, she said. They probably had this strange idea that they could read the minds because they were literally reading their minds. The plan is for the technology to be used as a mental keyboard where commands from the brain of the wearer can be executed by thought. It's increasing profits, which means this will spread. The technology is also in use at Hangzhou at State Grid Zhejiang Electric Power, where it has boosted company profits by about 2 billion yuan, about $315 million, since it was rolled out in 2014. According to Cheng Xinzhu, an official overseeing the company's emotional surveillance program. There is no doubt about its effect, Cheng said. Zhao Binjian, a manager of Ningbo Seiyan Logistics, said the company was using the devices mainly to train new employees. Oh yeah, they got an electric shock if they got it wrong, huh? The brain sensors were integrated in virtual reality headsets to simulate different scenarios in the work environment. It has significantly reduced the number of mistakes made by our workers, Zhao said, because improved understanding between the employees and the company. Yep, you're making a mistake, you get an electric shock. How does that sound? So this is truly scary, what's going on right now. Okay, so this is the little part of the interview where Clinton says if you don't want to support the Democrats, then go somewhere else.
You know, with his supporters, he doesn't disown the things they say about, you know, some of my favorite Democrats, people like Kamala Harris, who is out there speaking up and speaking out, and she's being attacked from the left. Enough. You know, if you don't want to support Democrats, then go somewhere else.
So there you go, and the only reason I bring this up is because it looks like the Democrats are destroying themselves from the inside. And the resurgent left wing that she's talking about, who are the faces of the resurgent left? The most high-profile incoming freshman in this group is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, New York. She's the youngest woman ever to be elected to the House, and she gained celebrity with her shocking upset of a long-time incumbent in a Democratic primary. Minority women are the rising stars of the left. Ocasio-Cortez squad includes freshman Ayanna Pressley, Massachusetts, Rashida Tlaib, Michigan, and Ilhan Omar, Minnesota. They appear to be bonding with incumbent Republican Pramila Jayapal, Washington, who was just elected co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And so this is what's happening. These new faces, these hard left individuals are now attacking their own. And of course, you know, you have to remember there's an election coming up in 2 short years. Okay, and we'll just take a quick look at this map here. It's an interactive map, kind of like this. When you hold your cursor over one of these squares, it can tell you what the area was. And so here we are. South Dakota flipped to Republican by 23.7 points. Donald Trump 54%, Hillary Clinton 39%. And you can see this area here, of course, is your Rust Belt. This is your industrial area. Let's get this out of the way. This is your industrial area, but look how much of the country flipped from Democratic to Republican. I mean, there was an awful lot of the country flipped by more than 20 points. Right here, look, more than 20 points. That's huge. And then look how many blue spots there are. There's only one area where Republican flipped to Democrats by more than 20 points, and that's right here in Salt Lake, Utah. Flipped to Democrats by 34.3 points. Hillary Clinton got 46, Donald Trump got 32. So, and now of course the grey area, of course, is no change in party loyalty, but it does show you how much the Republicans have taken hold under Donald Trump. And unless the Democrats stop arguing and bickering amongst themselves, they're doomed. No one will elect even a competent leader if he or she has a fractious party that looks like it would be difficult to control and has 2 completely separate ideologies within it. As I said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And this is so interesting. This is from Now magazine. The ex-cops, politicians and friends of Bill Blair. Bill Blair was the chief of Toronto Police before he was elected to the Liberal Party, cashing in on legal weed. Chuck Rifici, former CEO of the Liberal Party of Canada and the founder of and former CEO of Cannabis Growth Corp. Mark Zekulin, president of Cannabis Growth, also the company's legal counsel and former senior advisor to ex-Ontario Finance Minister Dwight Duncan. Potential conflict of interest. Zekulin's resume includes a gig as a senior policy manager for the Business and Industry Advisory Committee to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Norman Inkster, former head of the RCMP and independent director of Metrum Health Corp. Potential conflict of interest, cop and corporate connections. There are some ideological and some political aspects to this. Oh yes, Bill Blair, of course there is. Kim Derry, former Toronto Deputy Chief. Wow, look at that. These are people who willingly put kids in jail. Look, see, was part of the regime when he was cop in Toronto that enforced a zero tolerance policy on pot. Also see George Smitherman below. Same thing. Former Minister of Health, Ernie Eves, former Ontario PC leader and Premier. Julian Fantino, former Conservative MPP, OPP Commissioner and Toronto Police Chief. Raf Sukar, former undercover drug officer and RCMP drug Deputy Commissioner. Joshua Tepper, President of Health Quality Ontario. John Reynolds, former Reform and Canadian Alliance MP. Senator Larry Campbell, former RCMP officer and Vancouver Mayor, Independent Senator. Mike Harcourt, former BC Premier and Mayor of Vancouver. Herb Dhaliwal, former Vancouver MP and Federal Cabinet Minister. Kash Heed, former BC Solicitor General. Cam Batley, former legislative assistant to the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs back in the early 90s, former Director of Communications for Eli Lilly and Company in Canada. Neil Bellot, Chief Business Development Officer for Aurora Cannabis, potential conflict of interest, former public servant in several ministries within the Ontario government. Jake Ryan, former RCMP intelligence officer and federal criminal investigator. And finally, Barry Daniel, former Abbotsford Police Chief. So all of these people who, as I said, would willingly bust kids for a joint, ruin people's lives and careers. Now all of a sudden it's been legalized and they are using their position to make an absolute killing. Well, I sure hope that these potential conflicts of interest come to the fore and they get their knuckles wrapped good and proper, because they absolutely deserve it. Okay, well, I hope you found those stories as interesting as I did. I was particularly interested in the Chinese data mining from your own mind. Now, I know this is, well, we're assuming it's a fledgling technology, but who knows how far they've got. But certainly they're at the point where you can move a cursor with your thoughts, and so as we delve deeper into connecting this cyber world directly into our body, we are seeing the next phase of technology and the next phase of AI. And of course, as per usual, depending on whose hands it ends up in, it could end up in a completely dystopian future or the most wonderful paradise that you have ever set eyes upon. And I'm certainly hoping for the latter, as I'm sure that you are. So please, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. We are moving our way to 5,000 subscribers. Anyways, I haven't had any of my subscribers removed by the latest YouTube purge. Basically what they were doing was removing fake sites to basically just tidy up YouTube, and I'm completely in favour of that. But I was actually kind of wondering whether it would lead to a significant loss of subscribers, because there are a lot of people who maybe have an account but don't put anything on it. They just use that account to comment or to view videos through their own channel, but there's actually nothing there. Or, of course, many of these channels just get abandoned. I know actually I'm guilty of that. I've got 2 or 3 YouTube channels that I started up and they just never went anywhere and I didn't progress with them. And so yeah, they're just floating around there in cyberspace waiting for the cyber garbage man to come around and sweep them up. So in one way I'm pleased, but I'm sort of watching the deplatforming of other sites over what seem like negligible issues. And I would say this to YouTube. You know, this is something that I think is irritating everybody. You know, I recently put up 3 videos about Paris. They were essentially the same kind of content. They were just 3 different days following the story of the Gilets jaunes riots or protests in France. And 2 of them were monetized and 1 of them was demonetized. And they couldn't tell me, or they wouldn't tell me, exactly what it was that was different about the one that was demonetized over the other 2 that were perfectly okay. Because I re-listened to them all again, and I couldn't see anything that was really significantly different about the words that I used or the clips that I used to illustrate some of the things I was talking about. So this is quite an issue, and I do wish I'd put a call out to YouTube. If your algorithm is reading the transcript as I'm speaking, then I would ask you to please tell us what it is. Be more specific. You know, hate speech, this kind of stuff, those words don't really tell you exactly what hate speech is. We would like you to be more precise, more definite about your terms of use, terms of service, and then adhere to them. Because that doesn't always seem to be the case either. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below, and click that big red button. It really helps when you do. And thank you so much for any new subscribers and for all of those of you coming along for the ride. Commented below. Okay, so you take care, you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you real soon. See you now. Bye.